Hello, guys. Welcome to the Chit Chat show with Recruiters, Season 1, Episode 6, organized by Design Hat and Design Day. Today, with us, we have Rachel. Thank you so much, Rachel, for being here on board. And thank you so much, viewers, for being here today. So, let's start the session by introducing ourselves. So, hi, everyone. I'm Momita Viswas, BE graduate in computer engineering, a product designer, and your host for today's evening. And Shishti, you can give your introduction and we'll take forward from there.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Momita. Hello, everyone. I'm Shrishti, and I'm currently working as a designer at Nitto Infotech, and I'm also running my design community that is Designly. And it's good to have Raquel on board today. Let's just start the session with the introduction of our speaker. Raquel, can you please or like give your introduction to our audience?
Okay, so hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Rachel. I'm currently working as a UI designer in Tokopedia. So I'm based in Jakarta, Indonesia, and Tokopedia is probably one of the biggest e-commerce in Indonesia. So I'm very lucky to be able to work there as a UI designer, and I'm very excited to be here. And I hope I can share some meaningful insights for you guys tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Surely.
Uh, yeah. So let's just start with the basic thing like how you started your design journey and how you came across that you want to pursue your career into design.
Yep. So actually, I study graphic design in university. Well, since I was little, I kind of know that I'm interested in drawing, in art, but I didn't know about design until I was maybe in high school. Because in high school, we've got a computer subject and we got to design like restaurant menus and design websites. And from there, I started to like realize, oh, there's this thing called design that you can work for a living. And I think I'm pretty good at it and I want to try to do it. And so I studied graphic design in university. And during my university years, I was actually interested in branding and typography. So that's like the
Okay.
traditional graphic design, like. But during I think my second or third year, I got a web design course in university, and then I learned a bit about coding, HTML, and CSS, and I'm starting to be interested too in website design. And so when I interned in my university years, I interned at a graphic design studio. But then after I graduated, uh, I kind of wanted to try something different. And at the time, it was around 2018. Like product design is still growing and kind of trending, and I want to, just try the trend. I want to see what product design is all about. So I like learn online, read some articles about UI and
Mm-hmm.
UX. And at that time in Indonesia, the roles are separated between UX and UI. And because UI is more visual based, it's more for the visuals and then animation. And because I studied graphic design, so I decided to focus on UI. So here I am right now.
Okay.
Okay, that's great. So this is the reason why you wanted to be a UI designer and not a UX designer.
Yeah, because I think it's more interesting to focus on the visuals. But I think
Hmm.
currently, right now, companies are starting to merge the two roles together, right?
Okay.
Well, in my company, it's still separated, but I think they'll have a plan to combine the UX and UI as one as product designer in the future.
Right. No, that's great.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like, how do you follow? Like, do you follow any mentors, or you are a self-taught designer?
Yeah. So during my university years, I learned a lot from not only like from the course, but from my peers, my friends, and I also got to read a lot of design books. So I borrow from the university library, like read design books from the basic, like the principles of design. Like I really learned the foundation from there. And I also like follow a lot of great designers, like abroad from the US. I read their blog, I open their studio website, like I read a lot of their case studies, I learn how they think, how they design. So I think if you think about mentor, it doesn't have to be like having someone that you look up to. You can learn a
Right.
lot from everything and
True.
everywhere. So like if you don't have the access for someone that you look up to, then you can just, like learn online, like look up for resources, open website, read a lot of interesting case studies from big companies, and I think you will also learn from there. So I think I really benefit a lot from learning by myself. So not only in university, but I also took the effort to learn from books and reading articles, and I think it really helped to shape my I say my sense, my design sense, because I'm
Hmm.
exposed to what it is out there, what is good,
Hmm.
and what other professionals are doing.
Right.
And so don't be like you can learn from anyone. So even people younger than you, I mean, right now young people are so are so great,
Hmm.
and they do a lot of exploration and stuff, and you can learn a lot from everyone. So I think you
Yeah.
can just learn a lot from everyone, and just don't focus on one people as your mentor. Just be learn from everyone.
Yeah.
Truly,
Exactly. Yeah.
that's insightful. So, according to you, what are the important things a UI designer has to keep in mind while he or she works in a corporate world?
Yeah. So the the corporate world is not as beautiful as dribble, I might say, like, because there will be a lot of challenges that you face when you are working on the job. Like you have to find the balance between the user's needs and the business goals, because you cannot just focus on the users and you neglect the business because it won't work. And on the other hand, you cannot just focus on the business and you forget about the users, because it's going to be ending up having a bad experience for them. So I think you have to find the balance between options, like time constraints, tech limitation. And I think when you're working in the corporate world, you have to be open for other ideas as well. And you have to find solutions that is beneficial for all parties, for the users, for the business, and for the tech team, and for the timeline also. Yeah, so I think, and it's also important to share your work to your coworkers, gain feedback from them. Just because I think if you work collaboratively with people, you will have a better output than you just working alone until it's finished and then you show them, this is my design, it's finished. What do you think? I think it's better if you
Right.
share your work step by step during the process, because you can get a lot of more insights from that.
Truly. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So can you share like some of the resources you have been learning from, and you're one of the best case study you came across till now?
Okay. So actually, right now because I'm working, I don't have much time to read case studies. Usually,
Mm-hmm.
I read on Medium, and I also like follow some UI UX agency like Ueno, but now Ueno is acquired by Twitter. They're not active anymore. And
Okay.
then Meta Lab, if you know, they're pretty famous on
Hmm.
Dribble. And then there's Fantasy Interactive, and
Okay.
yeah, that's the studios that I like to read the case studies, because I prefer to read case studies from big companies, because usually the process will be more realistic rather than reading case studies that students are working on Medium, because usually if a student case study, it's so idealistic, like you follow the process step by step, but in the real
Right.
world, you maybe don't have enough time to do that, or maybe you don't have enough
Okay.
resource. So you
Yeah.
have to go with what you have to produce the design that you're making.
Yeah. Right. That's
Okay.
really insightful. So, how did you started your first internship or maybe job? Like, what is the whole procedure behind that? How you
Oh yeah.
landed? Yeah.
So for the internship, I interned at a graphic design studio. So the work was primarily focused on branding, logo design, and internship was a must in my university. So you have to take a minimum of 3 months internship before you graduate. So yeah, so I dedicate one semester to intern. So basically, the preparation is because we have to do a lot of work in my university. So I just put in my university work But then when I graduated and I wanted to pursue UI, my portfolio back then was more leaning towards the graphic design, so not much UI work back then. So I took like around 2 or 3 months to work on my UI portfolio. Like I took a daily UI challenge. You guys maybe know. Like
Yeah.
they will
Okay.
send you
Yeah.
a challenge every day for 100 days, and I started to learn from there. And then I also learned the basic like UX design principles from Nielsen Norman Group, if you guys know about
Yeah.
it,
Okay.
like
Yeah.
the 10 usability heuristics. So that's like pretty much the basics of user experience. So I kind of learned from there. And I think I'm pretty lucky because I have my graphic design background. So I think transitioning to UI is not that hard because I already have the foundation of the design principles, and then I just have to put it in the UI. So yeah, so in my portfolio, I put a lot of like fake work, like I create a work by myself, and then yeah, I was pretty lucky to be accepted that time because I think right now the bar is pretty high if you apply. Like you have to
Yeah.
to make a case study. Like back
Hmm.
then in 2018 when I was applying, like I don't have any case study. I only explain like I make this explanation for like a fitness app and I just show the screen. There's no research, there's no testing and something. So I was pretty
Right.
lucky
Okay.
back then. Like now it's pretty hard. Like you have to make a case study step by step to apply.
Right. And that is also not, you can say it's fixed that that case study is approved for a specific opening or in which company we have applied.
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Also, you mentioned the logo thing. So, from which sites you take resources, like inspiration basically? Like, say, supposingly, if you want to design a logo for any company, so what are the websites you took inspiration from?
Yeah, basically it's Instagram, Pinterest, but there's one blog about branding and logo design that I really like. So the creator of the blog is an owner of a design studio, so he has experience for like 20 years, I think. And what he did is he reviews logo work, like so he made a blog about it, and it used to be free, but now after the pandemic, you have to pay, but it's not that much.
Okay.
It's $2 for a month. And
Hmm.
even for me in another developing country, I think $2 a month is pretty cheap. You can save it.
Mm-hmm.
So the blog is called Brand New.
Brand
It's
new.
Okay.
Okay.
by under consideration. So the name of the design studio is under consideration, and the blog is brand new. So you can look it up. And I think it's very, very insightful because the one who gives the comments about the logo is a working graphic designer. So he has experience and knowledge about that. For probably for UI UX, I haven't found a similar blog like that, but I've been
Okay.
following Growth dot Design, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's from Canada. So they review like products, digital products, and by making like a comic. So it's like a comic strip version. It's Growth
Okay.
dot Design. I think you can look it up.
Okay. That's great.
Awesome. Okay. So now to narrow it a little down, so you're working in Tokopedia. So can you give some insights about the company and your roles and responsibilities, like maybe experience or
Yeah.
day-to-day responsibilities?
So yeah, Tokopedia is pretty much one of the biggest e-commerce, and it started just like e-commerce. You can buy stuff and sell stuff. So probably it's like eBay, local eBay,
Okay.
but now it's growth to have selling digital products as well. And then there's also fintech, like you can buy gold, buy mutual funds, and like you can basically do everything from there. Because I think the apps in Asia are focused on super apps, like one app to do everything, right? And actually,
Okay.
Tokopedia also has a office in India, but it's
Okay.
more for the developers, for mobile developers.
Okay.
And I'm currently working on the payments team. So basically, my everyday job is designing the UI for the payment flow on Tokopedia. And in my work, I get to work with alongside one UX designer and one UX copywriter, and then there's also a UX researcher, and then probably around five product managers, and then there's the developer team. There's Android, iOS, and the mobile developer. So I might say because my company is pretty big, so there's like dedicated person for each job. So we have the researcher, we have a writer, like
Okay.
probably in smaller companies, it maybe one person will do it all right. So I think because my company is pretty big, so the work is pretty focused. So what I do is usually the UX designer will take care of the wireframes and the flow of the product. And what I do is I translate it into high fidelity design, and we
Okay.
already have a design system in place. So what I do is I lay out the design system, um, add some graphics or illustration to the screen, and some animation if it's needed, and also create prototype for testing to the users. And sometimes, aside from my teamwork, so I also get to contribute to the design system team by making components for them. So like
Okay.
if I have suggestion for the current components, like we will, our team is encouraged to make contribution to the design system. So if you found that the component is not, maybe you have some pain points that you heard from the users, you are encouraged to contribute and to improve the design system. So I have several times also contributed to the design system. So yeah, that's basically it.
Okay.
That's great.
So, since you said, which is like Troki, every nowadays people are combining the UX and the UI and different roles under it. So, can you brief our viewers about UX copywriters?
Oh yeah. So UX copywriters is focused on the content, the copy, the writing on the products. And usually maybe in small companies it's combined as one, but not because we are pretty big. So we have a dedicated UX copywriter, and their job is to make sure the copywriting on the product is concise, it's simple, and it's understandable by users. And it can, if there's something wrong, if there's an error, the copywriter may help the users to guide them what to do next. And yeah, so it's more focused on the content, the copy and the
Okay,
product.
that's informative. Okay.
Yeah. So, as Raquel, you told about the Tokopedia, it's like a digital products. We can sell digital products. So it's similar to Etsy. Etsy or maybe Creative Market on which we sell our digital products.
Oh, yeah. So the digital product I'm talking here is more like you can buy, you can pay for electrical bills. I think it's similar to Paytm in India. Because,
Paytm, okay.
yeah, I think because we once had a
Hmm.
designer from India and he kind of showed Paytm. So I think the digital
Okay.
product is kind of similar to Paytm.
Okay. So Paytm is basically for transforming and receiving the payment part, and that's why it doesn't include the digital products and all, like digital products as in like templates or ebooks. This
No,
is
no, 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 no.
okay. Cool. So let's just talk about like how is the work culture look like in a Jakarta in which you are working in, and what do you like the most about being a UI designer there?
Yeah, I think we are pretty balanced in terms of the work-life balance. Like, uh, the time is pretty strict. Like, we don't do overtime here. Pretty lucky for
Okay.
that. And I think maybe because the company is pretty mature, it's not a startup, so the work hours are pretty balanced. And in terms of working, I think we are pretty collaborative. Like, so we work between functions like designers working with PMs and working with the engineers also. And yeah, and I've also experienced working with the Indian team because some of my developers are actually based in India. And I think there's not much of a gap between the working style in Jakarta and in India. I think we work pretty well.
Yeah.
and the communication is going pretty well.
Yeah.
And yeah, and in here, I think for the design, it's growing and it's trending right now because probably if you look 5 years ago compared to now, like design is more value now. Like people are starting to appreciate design more and realize what design can do to the business, you know. And I think it's pretty exciting because back then, like when I was in university, people don't really think like what are you studying design? What can you do as a designer? How you're going
Mm-hmm.
to make a living, you know? But now like everybody seems to be wanting to be a designer because especially in a tech company, because I think it's very like I might say the compensation is pretty well compared to
Okay.
like in graphic design. But
Mm.
apart from that, it's also pretty challenging because for the older generation, they still haven't appreciated design. So I might say in Indonesia, the official website, like from the government products, the website is not as good design as this private owned products. And I think there's still a lot of potential to be
Yeah.
discovered in here.
Yeah, that's great. Even
Okay.
like I'm also working under a Indonesia team, so I'm pretty
Oh,
well pretty well know them. So I joined Nitto. So Nitto is also in Indonesia, Jakarta, basically.
oh,
Maybe
that's
you
cool.
know. So yeah, that team is from Indonesia, so I know. Yeah.
Okay, so now let's move a little towards the recruitment and the portfolio basically. So, in your company, how do you recruit students or maybe employers? Like, what are the step by step procedure?
Yep. So I think it's pretty basic. There's not much steps because I've heard like in the US there's like a 10-step interview. Like oh, no, it's not that much in here. So basically, you
Okay.
apply with your resume and your portfolio, and then we're gonna give you a take-home assignment. Usually, you can do it in like I think the timeline is 5 days for you to do the assignment. So you're gonna
Okay.
give you a design challenge. Like we give you a problem about something, and we ask you to come up with the solution. So if you are applying for the UX, it's more focused on the solution, on the wireframes, and the user flow. But if you're applying for UI, it's more focused on the high fidelity, the visual design and but we also ask you to put the presentation explaining your concept, your process, and I think it will be a plus point if you also put in your research for the problem and also if you have time to do some testing to validate your design. But that's mine. The most important if you just do the design part right and lay down the foundations. And after the test, we will review it. And if you pass the test, then we will call for an interview. So right now, because it's the pandemic, so the interview is done online. Usually there's like 3 people that's going to
Okay.
interview. Two are senior designers and one is the hiring manager. The one is hiring for the team. And after you pass the interview, and that's it, you're in the company.
Okay. So, the evaluating part is based on what role you apply for. So, if it's UI, they evaluate on basis of that, and otherwise, it's like the wireframes or prototyping for the UX, right?
Yeah, so for the UI, we also kind of review the flow and the process, but we don't really
Okay.
focus on that. But if you are good with your process, it's gonna be a plus point. But we will mainly review the visuals, like how you choose the colors, the component, how you lay out the screen, how is it not cluttered, how is it well designed, you know. And
Okay.
for the UX, I think the final output is wireframe only is okay, and for UX we're more focused on the process, your research, your solution, and then why do you choose that solution, and then your flow, is it clear enough for the users, is it good in terms of the usability. Yeah, so it's more focused on the user flow and experience, and for UI it's more focused on the visuals.
Got it. And how does this differ in terms of students and like beginners versus the senior level positions?
Yeah, so basically, I think it's the difference is just the standards. So if it's,
Okay.
like fresh graduates, beginners, like people with no experience, we have lower standards. So we have like an Google Sheets like for the scores. So we like count the scores, and for the beginners, the score is lower than the seniors. So the seniors have to achieve the higher score to be able to pass. But basically, I think for the
Okay.
test, it's pretty much the same.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So let's just talk about like on what pointers, like in your company, on what are the key points on which you judge a student's portfolio, and how do you judge the UI aspect of a specific project?
Yep. So because it's of course for UI, the first and foremost that I judge is the design, the visual design, how it looks. Because like if you apply for a UI position and then when you give the presentation, the PDF or the Figma presentation, and it's not well designed, then it's gonna be a minus point for you. So make sure that your presentation is well designed and not too much text and not too long, because I tend to see people like um, for applying for the UI, they're too focused on the process. Like they do research, they do wireframing and stuff, but then when they get to the UI, it seems like they don't have enough time because you have limited time to do the test, right? So like the UI, it's not finished and it's not polished, and it's a pretty missed opportunity, I think. And for the UI itself, it's pretty much how you master maybe the basic design principles, like how you lay out the information, how you use typography, how you highlight the important information, like what should I see, what are the first thing that users have to see, what they have to do, and then like if is the design is clear and clean and the layout is like consistent, there's no like different like different spacing, those like the details, I guess,
Hmm.
Yeah.
because we are UI designers, so we have to pay attention like to the pixels and like the font that you're using and your color. So it's basically really focused on the visual.
Right. And for like maintaining a perfect pixel, like pixel perfect design, what resources you follow, like from which you take inspiration, like a student can learn from such things.
Yeah, I think if you're trying to learn design, I think the most important is you learn the foundation, the basics. It's not learning the tools, it's not learning Figma, it's not learning Sketch, it's not learning Webflow, but I think you will have to nail down the foundation first, which is like the design principles, like how I kind of forgot. I used to remember in university like how you use balance and how you like
Yeah.
group the important things. Like if these things come together, then you group this and you have spacing and how you use white space, and then typography, like how you use different font sizing for different content, like how you determine the hierarchy between the content with typography, and then colors also, like why do you choose this color, what was the reason, like the psychology behind it. So I
Yeah.
think it's really important if you nail down the foundations first, because if
Okay.
you master the foundation, creating a design will be much easier. And then if you starting to learn about foundations, then you start to look at other designs out there. So Dribble is of course like a source of inspiration for everyone, but I think sometimes Dribble could be too idealistic because a lot of projects
True.
in Dribble are just made up projects. Like even I do that sometimes just to explore for the design, and that's okay, and there's no problem with that. But if you want
Hmm.
to look at the real world, then just download a lot of apps that you think are good design, like example like maybe Airbnb, Google, or something like the big
Okay.
companies.
Hmm.
Or maybe in India, if you have a big company, you can download the app and you study them. And there's also like a resource online. It's called Mobin,
Okay.
Mobin. So the team there, they collect a lot of screenshots. So they download a lot of apps and they like screenshot a lot of apps there and they upload it to. So I think there's a lot of websites that also do that. So you can learn what is the real design that's out there in the real world, not just in Dribble or Behance. And then, so when you first lay out the foundations, you learn about foundations. Second, if you look at a lot of designs, and I think you can also learn from outside product design. You can learn from graphic design. You can learn from photography. You can learn from art. So you can like get, like
Okay.
open your perspective about beautiful things from out there, not just in product design. So when you already have those two and it's time to do the work, that's the hardest thing. So practice a lot, keep on practicing. And in the beginning of your journey, I think it's you're gonna feel maybe frustrated or stuck because maybe you already have this high standards. Like every day maybe you expose yourself to good design, and then when you're trying to make the design, like why doesn't it look as good as I wanted to? Like in my mind I wanted to make this cool design, but when I try to design it, it doesn't look that way. And I think
Right.
it's
That's
very
true.
very normal. That's the advice that I also read online from some famous designer. I forgot who. So it's very normal if what you make is not what you expect to be. And what you have to do is you keep on practicing and working. So like you have this level, and but then when you're making it, you only reach this low. So you haven't reached it. So what you have to do is you keep practicing, practicing until maybe someday after years of practice and working, you will reach that gap. You will get better and better. So yeah,
Yeah.
just keep on practicing,
Yeah.
but also don't be too hard on yourself. Like don't compare yourself to others because others have their own journey, have their own effort. So it's pretty important to just pretty much focus on yourself. So because if you compare to others, there will be a lot of other designers that's much better than you, and you will be discouraged by that. But I think you can just focus on yourself and compare yourself to your past work. So like maybe you do design and then you look at your design like 1 year ago from now,
Yeah.
and you can see how much you have grown. So compare
Right.
yourself to the past, and you can see like how much you have, you know, you have grown. So yeah, just keep on practicing and do the work, and over time you will get better in time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. That was so much informative, but also positive and warm.
Yeah.
Okay, so when someone is working, like a beginner is working, so what are the things a beginner designer should keep in mind so that he or she is able to make the perfect design, that aligns with the task that the designer has got.
Yeah. So when starting out, don't be afraid to ask questions and ask for help. Like if you're starting out, maybe you just graduated and you got a job, and yes, you're excited about that, and but there's still a lot of to learn. So I think people are very helpful if you ask to them. So just ask a lot, like what is expected, and if you're stuck, you can just, just ask for help from the senior. Like when I started as a UI designer, every time I finish my design, I gave it to my senior designer for her to check, and she usually checked by the pixel, like, oh, this pixel is still like you missed 2 pixels, you have to correct this. And so yeah,
Okay.
so don't be afraid to ask and ask for feedback, and probably don't put too much pressure on yourself. So you cannot get it right the first time. So like be open for feedback. So like when you're designing and maybe something is not right, just ask for feedback. People don't expect you to make a perfect design like on the first try because everything is in iteration. Even the most experienced designer don't get it on the first try. So yeah,
Okay.
just ask for feedback, iteration, and yeah, just be yourself and just don't be afraid to make mistakes. Because if you make mistakes, you're gonna learn from it.
Hmm. Right. Yeah. So, like, what is the procedure after a student is being selected for a specific role?
I think there's not much of a procedure. So basically, when you're in the company, we're gonna onboard you, like introduce you to the company, like what is its mission and like its values and stuff. And then after that, you're gonna be introduced to the team, like who are you going to work with, and who is gonna be your manager, and probably the tools also that you're gonna be using and stuff. And I think the rest is just learning on the go. Like you're gonna learn eventually day by day when you're doing the job. So yeah, back at it, like don't be afraid to make mistakes and ask if you don't know anything, because I think the people in the company are going to help you.
Yeah. And like as you told that the work culture and everything, the deadlines they are fixed and strict. So the working hours in work from home is also strict. Like supposingly if you have to work from 9 to 6, then in a work from home you just have to work for 9 to 6, not extending the time.
Yeah, I think we're pretty strict, but it's not that strict. I think the because maybe mostly the people in my company are also like young, around 20 and 30s.
Hmm.
So they don't like
Okay.
expect you to be working like 8 hours sitting on the chair. Like you can take breaks, you can like go
Hmm.
out for a walk or something, but they just expect you to finish the job on time. Like if you have a deadline, then you have to be responsible for it. But I think like you don't have to be sitting on the chair all the time. Like because if you're working in the office, like you don't sit all the time. You have moments where you chat with your coworkers, when you like make jokes and you play games or
Hmm.
something, because that makes you like not stressed and to relax, you know. So even if you're working at home, don't push yourself too hard, because I think a lot of my coworkers have complained like, "Oh, I'm so tired working at home because I have to sit all day." You don't have to do that. Like you can take breaks. That don't forget to take breaks, but just make sure that your job is finished.
Yeah, right. You can finish your
Okay.
job anytime. But
Yeah.
yeah.
But then you need to be responsible for the deadlines.
Yeah.
I think that's
Sure.
it. Or whatever you do. Okay, then I think we can move to the portfolio review. So
Yeah.
the stage is all yours, Rachel, and you can
Okay.
share your screen.
Okay. And by the way, during the call, is my internet okay? Am I breaking or not?
Yeah, that was some lagging in between, but now it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wait.
like for the maximum time it is fine, but in between it was
Okay. Wait. Let me
perfect. Yeah.
change my internet so it's not lagging.
Yeah.
Sorry for a moment.
I guess she got disconnected.
Yeah.
Sorry guys for the delay.
No
No
worries.
worries.
I hope the internet is better.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so thank you for submitting this portfolio from, I hope I pronounce your name right, Benjoko Timothy. So let's just get to it. So, to be honest, if I review in the job and my work, if I get to review a candidate portfolio, I usually just, first I would scan the case study, like to see the final output.
Mm-hmm.
Because honestly, in work, we don't have enough time to read about the case study. So, so I basically just
Okay.
do it all. And then after I scan it, then I usually start to, if it's interesting, I will read the case study, like read it in depth. If not, then yeah, I just scan the case study. But today, let's review the case study. So first of all, it's fitness mobile app. Okay. So yeah, so there's the explanation about the app. So yeah, this is pretty good for the introduction. But I think you can improve this by showing the final designs in the site. So right now you're only showing the splash screen, right? So I think it would be better if you show the final design, like some screens in here, so like people will be interested to see your design. Okay. So next we go, yeah, so this is the design process. Okay, that's the basic design process, right? And there's this persona. Okay, so like the needs is, so this user has back issues and they want to, they don't have time to do workouts, and like they have old equipments and then have frustrating teachers, and the goal is like is to find a solution that could keep her fit. Okay, so and this is basically just the personality and stuff. Okay, and next is the survey. So when I look at this, maybe you can improve this by showing like how many people that completed the survey. Because right now I don't see how many people fill out the survey, right? And then one thing that I see is you don't like explain why are you doing a survey, like what's the purpose of your survey, and how does your survey like affects your decision when you're making the design. So like this is just like a question here, but I don't see like why are you doing a survey and not interviewing the user, for example. Okay, so this is user journey.
Okay.
It's pretty self-explanatory. It's the journey for the users. And yeah, so this is straight to the low fidelity wireframes, and this is not a wireframe. And then this is for the UI, the typography, and then the colors. Okay, the colors is I really like the colors for the blue and the black. I think it's pretty appropriate for the like fitness apps. So yeah, the colors are pretty good. And then there's this icons. And okay, so I don't know if you make the icons yourself or you take it from a free asset, but I'm gonna assume that probably this is taken from a free asset. Why I assume that? Because I see some different styles for the icons. Like for example, in the home icon here, the corners are rounded, so you can see the rounded corners, and the settings also, and this the icons here is also rounded. But then when I go to this icons, like these icons are like pointed, the corners are pointed, so I can see that this is probably taken from a different icon set. And like for the stroke as well, like for the search icon, the icon has different stroke width compared to the home icon on the right. So if you're focusing on the UI, I think it's pretty very important if you nail the consistency. And if you are taking the icons from like a free resource, like make sure you take them from the same library so the icons are consistent. Because you can, if, and especially if you lay it down like this, you can see the different styles from the icon. So it's better if you take it from the same source. Okay, and going to the components, yes. Okay, so this is pretty basic showing the components. And if you are like maybe applying for a design system theme, I think you can improve this by showing the states of the components. Because right now, for example, this button here is just showing the primary and the secondary button. But and when you're creating a button, there's also other states, like when the button, how does it look like when it's disabled, or maybe if the button is loading, how does it look like? So I think you can make this components more complete by showing the different states for the component. Like for example, for the forms here, you can show the default. Like, so this is the good example here. You show the default, you show how is it activated, or maybe if there's something error or something wrong with the text field. So yeah, it would be better if you can show like the complete states, because it also show that you are pretty pay attention to the details. Okay, so moving on. Oh yeah, so this is the all of the components and then the illustrations. Okay, and there's a video here. And actually the video, I pretty like the prototype video, because I don't know if you guys can hear it, but there's actually music to the video, and I
Yeah.
really like it. So, and I think the music is pretty appropriate for the theme, so it gets you like moving on to work out. And
Yeah.
what I like about this, it's like you're showing the prototype in video format. So like for me, for the reviewer, I don't have to click around the design. Like I just have to see the design.
The one I wore on Mondays and Wednesdays. While niggas flirt, I'm sewing tigers on my shirt and alligators. You want to see the inside? Huh, I see you later. They come to drama. Oh, that's that nigga with the fake. Wow, why you punch me in my face? Stay in your place, play your position. They come my intuition. Go in this nigga pocket, rob him while his friends watching. That hoes clocking. Here comes respect. This crew's your crew, or they might be next. Look at their man eye. Big man, they never try, so we roll with them. Stole with them. I mean, loyalty. Niggas bought me milks at lunch. The milks with chocolate, the cookies, butter crunch. 88, Oshkosh, and blue and white duck. That's blunt.
Okay, so it's really cool that I get to see all of the flows in one simple video. And so it really like it's I think using this kind of format is very useful. It's like you can walk through all the designs in the prototype, but in a video, so you like the reviewers don't miss any screens. And I think there was some cool details around here. Yeah, if you guys play the video later, like when you like successfully created an account, I think in the music it was like there's a wow in the music. I don't know if you made it intentionally or not, but I think there's just a cool detail, like the music matches the prototype. Okay, cool. So going forward,
Yeah.
we're going to the design. So because I'm a UI designer, maybe I'm gonna leave some comments for the design, but overall the UI is looking pretty clean. It's pretty good, but I think you can improve it better by just some minor details. But overall, I think it's pretty neat. Like, for example, I can spot the icons here. I kind of feel that this is stretch, so you have to be careful when you're using a logo and icon. You make sure that it's still the same ratio, because I think the Apple logo, I don't know if it's me, but I think it's kind of squished up, just like this Google icon. But for the layout, for the colors, I think you nailed it pretty good. And yeah, I think it's pretty clear here. And for the home, so probably my thought first when I look at this is I'm kind of confused, like what I should do, and especially this calendar. Like I don't see having a calendar as a common pattern in a workout app because I don't know what do you expect from the users with this, especially this calendar. I assume this is like the future, right? What are you going to do with this? Like if you like, what do you expect for the users to do it? Like if they clicked it, and what would happen? I don't kind of get it, the function of this calendar. And then maybe if I have maybe some feedback for the design, you can maybe pay attention more to the alignment of the design. Like for example, for this number 4 here, it's kind of misaligned, and Friday here, it's kind of misaligned. For the Sunday, it's aligned. It's nicely aligned here. Monday, kind of misaligned a little bit, but yeah, you have. If you're focused on UI, then you have to make sure the design is nicely aligned because we're gonna spot this like for far. Yeah, you can spot this. And same as this component too, I think you can make it stretch to align with this side here. So this gap feels a little bit awkward for me personally. I think you can make it better by stretching it. But overall, the UI is pretty neat. And also like for this section, I don't know if this training is the part of this today's workout. So I think maybe you can add a title for the section if it's a separate section. But if it's aligned with this today's workout, maybe you can make it closer. The proximity is closer to this component here. But yeah, overall it's looking pretty good. So yeah, so this is the login account. Then that's the homepage. And yeah, this is the today's workout. Yeah, this is pretty neat. Great job. Oh yeah, and this is kind of cut. So this is the video, and this under the video there will be the reviews. And I think some minor details here is like probably this space here is kind of too close because this is a separate section, so you can probably add more spacing to this. And also for a little bit of alignment, like this information here is not aligned. Like this is, it kind of feels floating for me personally because it's not aligned right to the other components. And it's also, you can try to pay attention to the details like this, the date format, you kind of miss a number. So make sure the small details are also you pay attention to it because it's pretty important, especially as a UI, because we look at the details like to make sure everything is pixel perfect. And yeah, the chat screen is pretty good. I think it's pretty neat. Probably if I have to comment a bit, like this is personal opinion, but I think it would be better if you don't make it, the color is not blue, because I think, I don't know, it's just my personal opinion. I think you can make it better just by making it gray or using a border. And like for this alignment here, it's kind of inconsistent, like the space between this record button to the box and this add button to the box. So like make sure if you have this like spacing, you make it consistent, you know, like between this element, so it's more neatly aligned. Yes, and for the video screen, yes, this is pretty good, pretty neat, it's cool. Yeah, and there's this payment option, and it's pretty neat, but maybe minor details like this add new card. I don't know if this is supposed to be with group with this section, or either it's supposed to be with this card underneath. So probably you can improve which of the the components that it should go. I think it should be closer to this card because this is the cards and you can add new cards, but I don't know. And for this icons here, I kind of don't know what these logos are supposed to do, and the add button, is this like adding a new card or is it like adding another payment option? So maybe you can make it as a button, like a button with a CTA instead of just an icon here. Yeah, and for confirmation, I think this is pretty good enough. Maybe a little bit nitpicking is pay attention to the size here because it's kind of small. I think it's not visible to the users. But yeah, it's pretty neat. And here, just a little bit of nitpicking, like pay attention to the details. It should have been confirmed, right? So it's very important to pay attention to the details. And yeah, so, oh, sorry. Yep, so this is pretty okay. Cool. And yeah, thank you. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's the end of the case study. Pretty cool. And probably one another feedback that I could give is, so you did a persona here and a survey, right? But I kind of don't see the connection between what you're doing in the persona with your final design. So I think it's when you're making like a design process like this, I think it's important if you could explain why are you doing a persona and what does this persona impacts your design. For example, in this persona that you made, like maybe the goals, like the frustration, like the person who don't have time to do work outside. Maybe you can have a feature where the workouts are very quick, like only 20 minutes for a total body workout. So it like caters to the persona, but I think it's still a little bit missing, like the connection between the persona and also for the survey here, like what does the survey affect your decision in the design? So yeah, maybe for next time you could improve on that. But overall, for the UI, it's pretty neat. So good job, well done.
That's great. It was an
Yes,
insightful review.
absolutely, yes. Okay.
Yeah, I guess
Okay.
this was the end of the session. Momita, you can conclude the session.
Yeah, so thanks, Rachel. It was really lovely having you and interacting with you. It was indeed a very informative and fun chit chat. So, thank you so much for being here. And thank you, viewers, to be to join us this evening. And I'm sure you liked this session. And if you did, make sure you stay tuned for the next chit chat session.
Yes, absolutely, Rachel. I'm really sorry for pronouncing your name
It's
wrong.
okay.
Yeah, pardon me, but yeah, it was lovely having you on board, Raquel, and have a good weekend ahead. And yeah,
Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
everyone for
have
having
a
me. I
great
hope it's insightful. So good night, everyone.
yes. Good night.
Good
good
night.
night. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.